The morning sun was bright as Olivia Martinez walked up to the plain, gray building in the Nevada desert. The air was hot and dry. Olivia wiped sweat from her forehead and checked the address on her phone one more time. This didn't look like a government science facility. Olivia was an expert on frogs and snakes. She had spent 15 years studying how these animals hunted, hid, and survived. Her work on American bullfrogs was well known among other scientists. She had never expected it would lead to a secret meeting. 3 days ago, she had received a call from someone named Agent Collins. His voice had been serious and formal. "Dr. Martinez, this is Agent Peter Collins with the United States government. We need your expertise on a matter of national security." Olivia had almost laughed. What could the government possibly want with her knowledge of frog hunting habits? But the official paperwork that arrived by special courier an hour later was real. So was the first-class plane ticket to Nevada. Now she stood in front of a door with no sign, no window, and no handle. She was about to check the address again when the door slid open. A tall man in a black suit stood in the doorway. His face looked tired but alert. "Dr. Martinez, I'm Agent Collins. Thank you for coming on such short notice." Olivia nodded and stepped inside. The door closed silently behind her. The building was much larger inside than it had appeared from outside. The walls were white and clean. People in suits and lab coats walked quickly through the halls. "What exactly am I doing here?" Olivia asked. "Your message wasn't very clear." Agent Collins led her down a long hallway. "What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. Before we continue, I need your verbal confirmation that you understand the secrecy agreement you signed." "Yes, I understand. I won't talk about anything I see here." Olivia felt her heart beat faster. This was all very strange. They stopped at a heavy metal door with a keypad. Agent Collins typed in a code and placed his hand on a scanner. The door hissed open. "Dr. Martinez," he said quietly, "you're about to meet some visitors. They're not from this country." Olivia frowned. "Foreign scientists? I don't understand why that's so secret." "Not from this country," Agent Collins repeated. "Not from any country." He looked directly into her eyes. "They're not from Earth." Before Olivia could respond, the door opened fully. The room beyond was large and well lit. In the center was a table with chairs, and standing near the far wall were 3 tall, thin figures. Olivia froze. Her mind tried to process what she was seeing. The beings were about 7 feet tall. Their bodies were slender and covered in small scales that shimmered like fish scales in sunlight. Their heads were slightly too large for their bodies. Most striking were their eyes, large compound eyes like those of a dragonfly, reflecting the room in hundreds of tiny surfaces. "Dr. Martinez, meet our visitors from Proxima Centauri b," Agent Collins said calmly, as if this was a normal thing to say. "They've been here for 3 weeks." Olivia couldn't speak. She had spent her life studying unusual creatures, but nothing had prepared her for this. The aliens, because that's what they clearly were, turned to look at her with perfect, fluid movements. One of the aliens stepped forward. Around its neck was a small device that glowed softly. "Greetings, Dr. Martinez," it said. The voice from the device sounded almost human, but with a musical quality. "We appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge." Olivia looked at Agent Collins, who nodded encouragingly. "Hello," she managed to say. I'm not sure what knowledge I have that would interest you." The alien tilted its head slightly. "We have studied your planet from afar for many decades," it said. "Your ecosystem seems contradictory to our understanding of evolutionary efficiency." Another alien moved forward. "Your predators are often smaller than their prey, yet succeed. Some prey consume predators. The rules seem inconsistent. We wish to understand." Agent Collins leaned closer to Olivia. "They've reviewed all our scientific papers and databases. They're still confused. Their ecosystem apparently works differently. Strict hierarchy, predictable relationships. They're particularly interested in something you published about bullfrogs consuming garter snakes." Olivia blinked in surprise. Of all the things aliens might want to know about Earth, they were interested in her paper about frogs eating snakes. The paper had been important in her field, showing how North American bullfrogs sometimes turned the tables on their predators. But it hardly seemed like information worthy of interstellar travel. "The snake-eating frog," she said slowly. "A perfect example of Earth's evolutionary wildcards." The alien's compound eyes seemed to shimmer with interest. The one with the speaking device moved closer. "I am scientific observer Kelreen," it said. "These are my colleagues, bioengineer Mavar and ecological analyst Jor." The other two aliens dipped their heads slightly in greeting. "We have come a great distance to understand how your world functions," Kelreen continued. "On our world, a prey species would never consume its predator. Such behavior would be," the translator paused as if searching for the right word. "Impossible." Olivia's scientific curiosity began to overcome her shock. Impossible because of physical limitations, or impossible because it doesn't fit your understanding of natural order? The three aliens looked at each other. Their scaled skin changed colors slightly, shifting to a deeper blue. "Both," Kelreen finally said. "Our world has clear rules. Small hunts smaller, large hunts small. Each creature knows its place in the chain of life." Olivia found herself smiling slightly. "Earth doesn't work that way. Our ecosystems are more like webs than chains. Everything is connected, but the connections aren't always predictable." Agent Collins gestured to the table. "Why don't we all sit down? Dr. Martinez can explain Earth's predator-prey dynamics in more detail." The aliens moved to the table with graceful, flowing motions. Olivia sat across from them, her mind racing with questions. But as a scientist, she knew how to focus on the task at hand. "Let me tell you about the American bullfrog," she began. "It's not the biggest or strongest creature in its habitat, but it's one of the most adaptable." The aliens leaned forward, their compound eyes fixed on her. Behind them, more government people quietly entered the room and took seats along the wall. Olivia realized that whatever she said next might shape humanity's first real conversation with beings from another world. She took a deep breath and continued. "On Earth, survival isn't just about being the biggest or strongest. Sometimes it's about being the most surprising." Olivia sat in the large conference room, still trying to believe what was happening. On one side of the long table sat government officials, military officers in uniform, and other scientists. On the other side sat three aliens who called themselves the Vosari. Their translators made soft humming sounds as they waited. It had been 24 hours since her first meeting with the aliens. She had spent most of that time in a small room nearby, reading everything the government had learned about the Vosari and preparing her presentation. She had slept only 3 hours on a cot they had brought in for her. Director Gregory Simmons, a serious-looking man with gray hair, stood up. He had been introduced to Olivia that morning as the head of this secret facility. "Dr. Martinez, please begin your presentation," he said. "Our visitors are eager to hear about Earth's predator-prey relationships." Olivia nodded and stood up. Her hands shook slightly as she connected her tablet to the room's display screen. A large image of an American bullfrog appeared. "Thank you, Director," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'd like to thank our visitors for their interest in Earth biology." The center Vosari, Kelreen, tilted his head in what Olivia had learned was a sign of respect. "On Earth," Olivia began, "our predator-prey relationships evolved through what we call natural selection. This process was shaped by environmental pressures, competition for resources, and random genetic changes. The result is not a simple chain or ladder, but a complex web of relationships." She tapped her tablet, and the screen changed to show a spider catching a bird in its web. This is a golden orb weaver spider catching a small bird. The spider weighs less than 1 ounce. The bird weighs many times more. Yet sometimes the spider eats the bird. The Vosari leaned forward, their compound eyes reflecting the light from the screen in hundreds of tiny points. Olivia continued, showing more images. A praying mantis eating a hummingbird, a python swallowing a crocodile, army ants overwhelming a scorpion. Size is just one factor in predation on Earth. Speed, venom, cooperation, ambush tactics, All these things can help a smaller creature overcome a larger one. She changed the image to show an American bullfrog with a garter snake halfway into its mouth. The American bullfrog evolved primarily to catch insects and small fish, but it is an opportunistic predator. This means it will try to eat almost anything that fits in its mouth, including creatures that would normally be its predators, like this snake. Scientific observer. Kelreen moved slightly. This seems inefficient, dangerous, the alien said, through its translator. It is, Olivia agreed. Many bullfrogs die trying to eat snakes. The snake might be too large, or it might bite the frog as it's being swallowed. But enough bullfrogs succeed that the behavior continues in the species. We call this risk versus reward. A basic part of how evolution works on Earth. On our world, Kelreen responded, predation follows strict rules. Size determines position. Energy is never wasted on unlikely successes. Dr. Alan Rogers, an evolutionary biologist with bushy eyebrows and a kind face, spoke up from his seat near Olivia. That suggests your world has fewer resource fluctuations and environmental pressures than Earth. Our chaotic system creates adaptability. The aliens looked at each other, their skin changing to a slightly greener shade. We had believed that such unpredictability would lead to extinction, not advancement, said bioengineer Mavar. Olivia changed the images again, showing more examples of Earth's complex food web. Parasites controlling larger hosts, plant defenses against herbivores, symbiotic relationships between different species. Earth's biodiversity thrives on exceptions to rules, she explained. The snake-eating frog isn't strange for our world. It's typical of how our biosphere works. Kelreen's translator made a series of rapid clicks before speaking. We begin to understand why your species has achieved so much so quickly. You yourselves are evolutionary wildcards. The room was quiet for a moment. Olivia wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not. Director Simmons cleared his throat. Perhaps we could take a short break? Our visitors might want to discuss what they've learned so far. The three Vosari stood in perfect unison. We would appreciate time to process this information, Kelreen said. As the aliens left the room with their government escorts, Olivia sat down. Her heart was still racing. Doctor, Rogers moved over to sit next to her. You're doing great, he said quietly. Better than any of us expected. This is crazy, Olivia whispered. I study frogs and snakes. Now I'm explaining Earth biology to aliens. That's why you're perfect for this, Rogers said. You understand the exceptions, not just the rules. These Vosari seem to think in strict patterns. They need someone who can explain why Earth life doesn't follow their logic. Agent Collins approached them, carrying 3 cups of coffee. He handed 2 to the scientists. The Vosari have been studying our scientific literature for weeks, he said, sitting down. But they couldn't understand why some of our predator-prey relationships seemed backward to them. Your work on bullfrogs was what finally got their attention. Olivia sipped her coffee. It was strong and bitter, but she needed the caffeine. Have they said why they came to Earth? Why they're so interested in our biology? Collins and Rogers exchanged glances. Not directly, Collins said. But they've hinted that their own ecosystem is facing some kind of crisis. They keep using words like stability and adaptation. They seem especially interested in how Earth species adapt to changing conditions, Rogers added. How predators can become prey, and prey can become predators depending on circumstances. The door opened, and Director Simmons returned. They're ready to continue, he said. Dr. Martinez, they've requested a more detailed explanation of how the bullfrog can overcome its natural limitations to eat a predator. Olivia stood up, straightening her clothes. I'll do my best. One more thing, Simmons said quietly as they walked back to the table. They've requested permission to study live specimens. They want to see a bullfrog eating a snake with their own eyes. Olivia felt a strange mix of scientific excitement and unease. That might be difficult to arrange on demand. It doesn't happen every day in nature. We have resources, Simmons replied. Just tell us what you need. As they took their seats again, The Vosari returned. Their movements were as smooth and coordinated as before, but Olivia thought she detected a new energy in the way they held themselves. "Dr. Martinez," Kelreen said, "your presentation has raised many questions for us. On our world, a creature cannot change its role. A prey always remains prey. A predator always remains predator. The idea that these roles can reverse is—" The translator paused. "Revolutionary to our understanding." Olivia nodded slowly. "Evolution on Earth favors flexibility. A species that can adapt to changing conditions has a better chance of survival. We wish to observe this flexibility directly," said ecological analyst Jur, speaking for the first time. "To see this frog consume a snake would help us understand." "I'll see what we can arrange," Olivia said. She glanced at Director Simmons, who nodded slightly. "In the meantime," she continued, "I can explain more about how this adaptation developed and why it benefits the bullfrog species despite the risks involved." As she began speaking again, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that these aliens were interested in far more than just unusual Earth biology. Something about the intensity of their attention, the specific questions they asked, suggested they were looking for something particular. The bullfrog that sometimes ate snakes wasn't just a curiosity to them, it was something they needed to understand deeply, something important enough to travel across the stars to learn about. 3 days had passed since Olivia's first meeting with the Vosari. Each day had been filled with presentations, questions, and discussions about Earth's complex food webs. Today was different. Today they would see what they had been asking about: a bullfrog eating a snake. Olivia stood in the facility's garden area. It was an indoor space with real plants, a small pond, and natural light coming through special windows. The room had been designed to help the aliens observe Earth life in a controlled setting. The 3 Vosari entered the garden and moved toward Olivia. Over the past days, she had learned to read their body language a little. Their colors were brighter today, a sign of excitement, she thought. "Dr. Martinez," said Kelreen, "we appreciate this demonstration you have arranged." Olivia nodded. "I should explain that this is not something we can guarantee will happen. In nature, a bullfrog might try to eat a snake only a few times in its life, if ever. We've created conditions that make it more likely, but it's still up to the animals." "We understand," said Mavar. "Natural behaviors cannot be commanded." Olivia led them to the pond. In a clear container nearby was a large American bullfrog. In another container was a small garter snake. "Both animals were collected from the wild yesterday," Olivia explained. "The bullfrog is an adult female, about 6 inches long from nose to rear. The snake is a young garter snake, about 12 inches long. Normally the snake would be a predator to smaller frogs and would avoid a frog this large. But sometimes the frog eats the snake," said Jur, the quietest of the 3 aliens. "Yes," said Olivia. "If the frog is hungry, and the snake comes too close, the frog might try to catch it. Bullfrogs will attempt to eat almost anything they think they can swallow." Director Simmons and Agent Collins watched from nearby as Olivia carefully moved both animals into the pond area. She placed them a few feet apart and stepped back. For several minutes, nothing happened. The frog sat motionless at the edge of the pond. The snake slithered slowly through the grass, exploring its new surroundings. "The frog is waiting," Olivia explained quietly. "Bullfrogs are ambush predators. They don't chase their food. They wait for it to come close enough, and then they strike very quickly." The snake moved closer to the pond, unaware of the frog. When it was about 8 inches away, the frog suddenly lunged forward. Its mouth opened wide, and in one quick motion, it grabbed the middle of the snake's body. The Vosari made a soft humming sound as they watched. The frog began the process of swallowing the snake, which was twisting and struggling. "The frog will use its eyes to push the food down its throat," Olivia explained. "You can see how they close their eyes and push downward. This helps move the food into their stomach." The snake continued to struggle, but half of its body was already inside the frog's mouth. "Will the snake survive?" asked Kelreen. "No," said Olivia. "Once swallowed, it will suffocate and be digested." "And the frog risks nothing?" asked Mavar. "The frog risks quite a lot," Olivia corrected. "The snake could bite the frog's stomach." from the inside. Or it might be too large to swallow completely and the frog could choke. This is a risky meal for the frog. Yet it attempts this dangerous feat, said Kelreen. Despite the risk to its survival. Yes, said Olivia. That's what makes Earth's ecosystems different from what you've described on your world. Our animals take risks. They try new behaviors. Sometimes these risks pay off, and the behavior becomes more common in the species. The frog had now swallowed most of the snake. Only a few inches of the tail remained visible, still twitching. On our world, said Kelreen slowly, such behavior would not occur. A creature that risked death to try a new food source would likely die before passing on its genes. That happens here too, said Olivia. Many bullfrogs probably died trying to eat snakes over thousands of years, but enough succeeded that the behavior continued. As they watched, the frog finished swallowing the snake. It sat still, its body noticeably larger around the middle. Now the frog has a large meal that will give it energy for many days, Olivia explained. That's the reward for the risk it took. The Vosari were silent for a long time, watching the frog. Finally, Kelreen turned to Olivia. Dr. Martinez, we have not been entirely honest about our purpose here, the alien said. Olivia felt her heart beat faster. She looked at Director Simmons, who stepped closer. We are interested in your understanding of Earth's predator-prey dynamics, but we have a specific reason, Kelreen continued. May we speak privately in the garden, just the four of us? Director Simmons frowned, but nodded after a moment. I'll be right outside, he said to Olivia. When the director and other humans had left the garden, the three Vosari moved into a triangle formation. Their skin colors shifted to a deep blue that Olivia hadn't seen before. Our civilization is approximately 40,000 years older than yours, said Kelreen. We have mastered space travel, energy creation, and material conversion. Yet our species faces extinction within the next 100 years. Olivia was shocked. Extinction? Why? Our home star is becoming unstable, explained Mavar. We have the technology to move our population to other worlds, but our biology cannot adapt quickly enough to new environments. I don't understand, said Olivia. With your technology, couldn't you create artificial environments? For a time, yes, said Jur, but it is not sustainable. We need species that can adapt to new worlds naturally. Kelreen's compound eyes seemed to focus more intently on Olivia. Our evolutionary path valued stability and efficiency. For millions of years, this served us well. Each species knew its place. Food chains were simple and direct. But when things began to change, continued Mavar, our ecosystem could not adapt quickly enough. Despite all our technology, we cannot rebuild our entire biology. Olivia began to understand. So your questions about predator-prey dynamics were to understand adaptation itself, confirmed Kelreen, particularly species that succeed through unexpected behaviors like your snake-eating frog. Jor stepped forward, holding a small device. Dr. Martinez, we believe human DNA, especially the genes that control adaptation, may help our species survive. We wish to propose a scientific exchange. Olivia looked at the device, then back at the aliens. This is far beyond what I'm authorized to discuss. We understand, said Kelreen, but your unique knowledge of evolutionary adaptation made you the ideal first contact. The alien's skin shifted again, becoming a lighter blue. Your species thrives by breaking expected patterns, Kelreen said, looking back at the bullfrog sitting by the pond. Like the frog that consumes its own predator. This ability to change, to adapt, to take risks, this is what we need. Olivia felt the weight of the moment. These beings had traveled light years to learn from Earth's messy, chaotic biology, from a frog that sometimes ate snakes. I'll speak with Director Simmons, she said slowly, but I think you should tell this to our full team. As they left the garden, Olivia glanced back at the bullfrog. It sat contentedly at the edge of the pond, its body bulging with its unusual meal. A simple creature that had just become the focus of an interstellar exchange that might save an alien civilization. The meeting room at the Pentagon was crowded with important people. Military officers in uniforms with many medals sat on one side of the large table. Government officials in dark suits sat on the other side. Scientists, including Olivia, sat at one end. Director Simmons stood at the front of the room beside a large screen. It had been 2 days since the Vosari had revealed their true purpose for coming to Earth. Now the highest levels of government were meeting to discuss their request. "Let me make sure we all understand what's being proposed," said Secretary of Defense Frank Morrison, a serious man with short gray hair. "These aliens want access to human genetic material to help save their species from extinction." "That's correct, Mr. Secretary," said Director Simmons. "In exchange, they're offering to share technology that is centuries beyond our current capabilities." "What kind of technology?" asked a woman in a Navy uniform. "Faster than light travel, unlimited clean energy, medical advances that could eliminate most diseases," Director Simmons replied. "Their technology could solve many of Earth's biggest problems." Dr. Nathan Price, a geneticist from the CDC, shook his head. "But they want unrestricted access to human DNA. We don't fully understand what they plan to do with it." The room grew quiet as people considered this. Olivia sat silently, watching the debate. She had spent more time with the Vosari than anyone else, but she wasn't sure what to think about their request. Director Simmons looked at her. "Dr. Martinez, you've spent the most time with the Vosari. What is your assessment of their intentions?" Everyone turned to look at Olivia. She took a deep breath before speaking. "I believe the Vosari are truly facing extinction," she said carefully. "Their biology evolved for stability, not adaptability. They see in humans, in all Earth life, a biological flexibility they don't have." "Could they use human DNA as a weapon?" asked General Susan Wright, a stern-looking woman with short blonde hair. "I don't believe that's their plan," Olivia replied. "Their society seems built on order and efficiency. But there's something else important to consider. The basic difference in how they think." She pulled out her tablet and quickly found her notes. "The Vosari evolved in a stable system where roles never changed," she explained. "This affects how they think about everything. They think in straight lines and clear rules. They struggle to understand ideas like prey becoming predator because it goes against their basic view of how the world works." "What's your point, Doctor?" asked Secretary Morrison. "My point is that we're talking with beings who may not understand concepts, like deception or changing one's position," Olivia said. "To them, a frog eating a snake isn't just unusual, it's deeply confusing. It suggests a universe where rules can be broken." Dr. Kyle Bennett, an anthropologist with a beard and glasses, nodded slowly. "They might not understand that we could see their offer as a threat or that we might worry about their true goals." "Exactly," Olivia said. "When I explained how bullfrogs sometimes eat snakes at great risk to themselves, they couldn't understand why evolution would favor such seemingly foolish behavior. They kept asking what programming allowed for it." The room was silent as people thought about what this meant. "So," Director Simmons finally said, "we're potentially making a deal with an advanced species that cannot understand deception, but also cannot understand why we might be suspicious of them." "That's my assessment," Olivia confirmed. "They're not hiding anything, they genuinely need our help. But they may not fully understand what they're asking of us because they can't think like we do." Secretary Morrison stood up and walked slowly around the table. "Their offer is tempting," he said. "Faster-than-light travel alone would change humanity's future forever. But giving an alien species access to human DNA is a serious decision." "What exactly do they want to do with our genetic material?" asked General Wright. Director Simmons touched a control and an image appeared on the screen. It showed complex diagrams that the Vosari had provided. "As best our scientists can understand, they want to study the regulatory genes that allow for rapid adaptation," he explained. "They're particularly interested in how Earth life can change behavior based on new situations." Dr. Price frowned. "But why do they need unrestricted access? We could provide specific genetic sequences related to adaptation." Olivia thought about this. "I believe they don't know exactly what they're looking for," she said. "They understand that Earth life can adapt in ways they can't, but they don't know which specific genes or combinations create this ability. It's like they're asking for the recipe to a dish they've never tasted, added Dr. Bennett. They know they want the result, but they don't know which ingredients matter most. Secretary Morrison returned to his seat. The President has asked for our recommendation by tomorrow. We need to decide what limits, if any, we would place on this exchange. Olivia raised her hand. May I suggest something? The Secretary nodded. What if we propose a joint research project? She said. Instead of giving them unrestricted access to human DNA, we could work together to identify the specific genes and regulatory sequences that allow for adaptation. We could start with studying simpler organisms like frogs and work up to more complex examples. Dr. Price looked interested. That would let us maintain control over the genetic material while still helping them. And we could ask for specific technologies in exchange for each phase of research, added General Wright. That way we ensure a fair exchange. Director Simmons made notes on his tablet. This could work. The Vosari seemed to value efficiency and clear rules. A structured research agreement with defined phases might appeal to them. There's one more thing, Olivia said. I think we should include education about human thinking and psychology as part of the exchange. If they're going to work with us, and possibly use aspects of human biology, they should understand how we think. Dr. Bennett nodded enthusiastically. Excellent point. Their inability to understand concepts like risk-taking and adaptation is as much a threat to them as their dying star. Secretary Morrison looked around the room. Let's draft a proposal along these lines. We'll present it to the full cabinet tomorrow, and if approved, to the Vosari after that. As the meeting continued, Olivia thought about the bullfrog and the snake. Such a simple interaction, yet it had captured the attention of beings from another star. Earth's messy, chaotic evolution, where sometimes the prey ate the predator, might hold the key to saving an ancient alien civilization. And perhaps, she thought, the Vosari would learn more than just biology from humans. They might learn to see the universe as a place of possibilities rather than fixed rules. A place where sometimes breaking the pattern was the key to survival. 6 months had passed since the government had agreed to a scientific exchange with the Vosari. Olivia stood beside Agent Collins in a large new building in the Arizona desert. Through a window, they watched human and alien scientists working together in a bright laboratory. The research program is going better than we expected, said Dr. Liam Harrison, the project director. He was a tall man with kind eyes who had been chosen to lead the joint human-Vosari science team. Olivia nodded. I never thought I'd see humans and aliens working side by side like this. The agreement had been carefully made after weeks of talks. The Vosari would get limited access to Earth genetic material, starting with simple creatures like frogs and working up to more complex animals. In return, they would share specific technologies with humans. Both sides would work together, with full openness about what they were doing. The most surprising thing is how quickly they're learning to think differently, said Agent Collins. 6 months ago, they couldn't understand why a frog would risk eating a snake. Now they're studying all kinds of adaptive behaviors. Inside the lab, Kelreen was looking at 3D models of DNA spinning slowly on a large screen. The alien was talking, with a human scientist pointing at different parts of the model. These adaptation mechanisms are extraordinary, the alien said. The ability to change behavior based on environmental feedback rather than fixed responses. We had nothing like this on our world. Olivia's tablet made a soft sound. She looked down and saw that a new research report had arrived. She read it quickly and smiled. Good news? Asked Agent Collins. The Vosari have successfully changed some of their plant species using frog DNA, Olivia explained. The new plants can adapt to different temperatures and light conditions. It's the first step in creating life forms that can survive on their new colony worlds. Collins looked thoughtful. So the snake-eating frog really did save an alien civilization. Olivia laughed softly. In a way, yes. But what really saved them was meeting a species weird enough to eat its predators and smart enough to explain why that's sometimes a good strategy. They continued watching the scientists work. A Vosari scientist was showing a human team how to use a device that could measure energy in new ways. On the other side of the lab, humans were teaching Vosari about Earth's complex ecosystems. The exchange of technology has been fair, said Dr. Harrison. They've given us clean energy systems, new medical treatments, and materials we couldn't have developed for at least a century. The president is very pleased. And we've given them the key to survival, said Olivia. Not just the genetic material, but a new way of thinking. Through the window, they saw Kelreen do something unexpected. The alien made a sound like laughter after a human scientist said something. The humans in the lab smiled and the alien tried to mimic their expressions. 6 months ago, they couldn't understand humor, Dr. Harrison said with wonder in his voice. Now they're making jokes about DNA. That's adaptation in action, Olivia said. They're learning that sometimes breaking patterns leads to new opportunities. Later that day, Olivia sat with the 3 Vosari in the facility's garden. It had become their regular meeting place. The small pond now had several bullfrogs living in it, descendants of the one that had eaten the snake half a year ago. Dr. Martinez, said Kelreen, our scientists on the homeworld have sent news. Using the adaptability genes from Earth frogs, we have created plant species that can survive on our most promising colony world. They adjust to the changing light from the twin suns. That's wonderful news, Olivia said. How soon can you begin moving your people there? We have started building the first colony already, said Mavar. Within 10 years we will have a self-sustaining population off our homeworld. And we have learned something else, added Jor, who had become more talkative over the months. Something beyond the genetics. What's that? Asked Olivia. The value of unexpected actions, Jor said. For millions of years our civilization followed the same patterns. We were efficient, but we stopped exploring new possibilities. Kelreen's skin shifted to a warm golden color that Olivia had learned meant deep emotion. When we first saw the frog eat the snake, we thought it was simply inefficient. Now we understand it represents something greater, the willingness to try what has not been tried before. Our scientists have been studying human history, Maver added. Your species has survived many near extinctions, not just because of your adaptable biology, but because of your adaptable thinking. You try new solutions even when they seem unlikely to succeed. Olivia smiled. Like a frog trying to eat a snake, even though most will fail. Exactly, said Kelreen. We had the technology to save ourselves, but not the mindset. We needed to learn from a species that embraces the unexpected. A bullfrog jumped from the edge of the pond, catching a fly in midair. The Vosari watched with what Olivia now recognized as appreciation. We have a question, Dr. Martinez, said Kelreen. Once our immediate survival is assured, we wish to continue our relationship with humans. Would Earth consider sending scientists to help establish joint research facilities on our colony world? Olivia wasn't authorized to answer such a question, but she knew what the answer would be. I think Earth would be very interested in such a partnership. We have much to learn from each other, said Jor. Our technology and your adaptability together could solve problems neither of us could solve alone. As they sat in the garden, Olivia thought about how strange life could be. 6 months ago, she had been a scientist who studied frogs and snakes. Now she was helping build a bridge between 2 worlds, and it had all started because of a simple fact of Earth biology. Sometimes the prey ate the predator. Sometimes the expected order was reversed. And in that simple truth was the secret to survival, not just for the bullfrog, but for an entire alien civilization. As she watched the Vosari observe the pond life with newfound understanding, Olivia knew that humanity had gained far more than advanced technology from this exchange. We had gained perspective, our messy, chaotic, adaptable ways. The very things the Vosari had once seen as inefficient were actually our greatest strength. Like the bullfrog that sometimes ate snakes, humanity's willingness to break the rules and try the unexpected had made us not just survivors, but teachers to the stars.